This is the Chopped Podcast, episode number 4. Yes. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. This is the 4th episode of the Chopped Podcast. This podcast is designed for people just like you, bloggers who love food. Each week, I'll be sharing information, interviews, resources, thoughts related to food blogging, talking about what works with food blogging, and maybe even a little bit about what doesn't. Today's interview is with Kristen Doyle, and we're talking about finding happiness as a food blogger. I know that sounds like it should just happen, but food blogging requires so many disparate skills, and it's like a baby requiring 24 hours a day, 7 days a week attention, and it can quickly become this source of frustration. And you may have gone into it seeking happiness and fulfillment, and after a while, it becomes like I say, a source of frustration. Alternatively, you can get swept away by it all and just consumed with a blog and ignoring everything and everyone else in your life. And that's not good either. So I've kind of been thinking about the topic of happiness recently. And in fact, I read this quote. It's by Elizabeth Gilbert. Here it goes. People tend to think that happiness is a stroke of luck, something that will descend like fine weather if you're fortunate. But happiness is the result of personal effort. You fight for it, strive for it, insist upon it, and sometimes even travel around the world looking for it. You have to participate relentlessly. Isn't that great? I just love that quote. And I was thinking about the topic of happiness, and I just knew Kristen would be the perfect person to talk about that with me today. So Kristen shares about the aha moment that happened in her life that really made her take note and to focus on the things that matter to her. And in fact, as she told the story, I found myself, holding onto my chair with white knuckles because she tells a great story, and it's, it really is a reminder of, those kinds of moments in your life that help you realize what's important. So for her, it's been spending more time with her family. But as a result, though, she's also found more success as a blogger, or maybe peace and success. I don't know if they all combine together or what. But regardless, peace, success, happiness, sometimes they're all related. One more thing. Kristen and I both agree that colored markers come high on the happiness list. I hope you agree. Okay, put on your running shoes, go grab those earbuds, and join Kristen and I as we talk about all things happiness. Hey everyone, I am so excited to have Kristen Doyle of the fabulous blog Dine and Dish on the show today. Kristen, welcome to the Chopped Podcast.
Oh, thanks. I'm so excited to be here.
Great. There's so much I want to talk with you about. I love your blog and your delicious food photography and this happiness project that you've been posting about. I just love that. But first, I wanted to ask you about how all of this began. What caused you to start your food blog?
Well, I have been blogging for 8.5 years, and it's honestly kind of hard for me to remember why I started it.
It's been so long.
It has been. And, back then I wasn't thinking in 8.5 years I'd have to explain why I started a food blog because nobody knew what food blogs were back then, really.
Right.
And so my parents used to live just 2 hours away, and I had, at that point, had my second child, I think, of 4, or maybe my third. But they moved to South Texas, about 16 hours away, and I was really feeling the distance. It was really getting to me that my mom wasn't, right here anymore. And so I had a lot of updates, of course, with the new baby and things. So I just decided to start a blog and start kind of writing about what was going on in our family. And eventually it turned into recipes and food photography and things like that.
So it kind of started as you wanted to make sure you stayed in touch with your parents?
Yeah. The strange thing is there used to be a site called recipesare.com, which is now food.com.
Uh-huh.
And in 2002, I joined that site I had no idea how to cook at all. Like my signature dish was Hamburger Helper's chicken fried rice back then, and I would make that probably 4 times a week. And so when I had my first child, I decided to stay at home, and I'm like, I need to learn how to cook. And so I joined food.com and started trying recipes and then reviewing them, and then eventually they started asking for their members to submit pictures. And so I started doing that, and there was a photography forum there that you could submit your pictures and people would give feedback and things like that. And it just turned into a definite hobby where I started photographing everything I was making. And so the two of those, with my parents going away and then my love of food photography, kind of combined, and that's how it all happened.
Don't you just love something that comes along in life that helps you define? Like, you may not even have thought you were interested in photography, and all of a sudden now it's like a huge thing for you.
Yeah, it's crazy how that happens. And to full circle is I now work in a paid capacity for Scripps Network and food.com. So,
oh my gosh, that is full circle.
On food photography.
Wow. And so before that, though, you didn't really have like this, like you say, you were making Hamburger Helper, so food just wasn't something you thought a lot about.
No, I mean, I couldn't cook, and I was definitely a slice and bake frozen cookie dough person, and that's kind of where I started. Is my husband loves cookies, and his mom would always just whip up a batch of cookies, and I'm like, it's kind of ridiculous that I don't know how to make cookies, and so I started making cookies, and then I started making bread, and then from that, I just started, actually making the meals that we ate. And so I did cook with my mom. I mean, it's not like my mom didn't teach me how to cook. She did teach me how to cook, but I didn't have an interest at all. And I was busy. I was working, 60 hours a week as an executive for a recruiting company, and just didn't want to take the time to learn how to cook until I had kids.
I see. So that kind of was a big impetus for wanting to have healthy meals at home, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Is there something about cooking now that, in hindsight, that you really love?
Honestly, I love being in the kitchen. This is going to sound bad as a blogger, but I love to cook just to cook. It's gotten to the point where I love blogging and I love food photography, but those meals where I can just throw something together and use my intuition and not have to write down every step so I can blog it later is nice. I love those, those times in the kitchen. And I love cooking bread. Bread is my favorite thing to make.
Oh man, I'm right there with you on the cooking thing, because I like to just improvise and try different things at night. But of course, if you're doing it for the blog, you really have to be precise about writing down the ingredients and all that stuff. And so I like also just the physical movement of being in the kitchen. It seems like so many professions nowadays, you're stuck in front of a computer. I mean, even photography, a lot. Once you get that done, you're in front of the computer. But cooking is one of those things, like, you're moving around. It's a very physical thing.
It is. And I can't have any distractions when I'm writing. And even when I'm editing photos, I know some people watch shows and stuff and they're doing that. I have to have like complete concentration on what I'm doing. But when I'm cooking, I can have music or my favorite podcasts or, things like that in the background, and it's kind of, it's kind of a me time kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It can get me out of a funk even if I'm in the kitchen.
Absolutely.
So what's one of the things that you like about food blogging?
If I would say my one favorite thing about food blogging is the connections I've made over the last 8.5 years, from other bloggers to readers who have turned into good friends, to connecting with people in my own community who I just got a text yesterday that somebody had made my mom's spaghetti and meatball recipe, and then last week they'd made my mom's chicken and noodle recipe, and she's like, I am totally, hooked on your recipes. And, she's a local person here who I see all the time, but it's connected us in a different way that we probably wouldn't have before. But definitely the connections and the relationships is my favorite part.
That's great. Is there something that you don't like as much about food blogging?
Of course. No, just because, I blog because I love to write. I love photography. The back end stuff, the accounting, the taxes, the statistics of it all I can't stand that stuff. I sometimes feel like I'm a fake business owner because it's not, I feel like we're expected to do it all, and I'm not talented with that kind of stuff, and I really don't care to be. And so the nitty-gritty details of the back end kind of things.
Well, it's such a disparate hat that you have to put on, too. Like, the total amount of creativity that's required for the photography and the writing. And then it's like you have to, like, do a 180 and become this completely different person. And all of a sudden, got to have your taxes in order. And
right.
It's just, it's a little overwhelming.
I think it was like Tessa said in your first podcast, do the thing that, I think she said you do the thing you least want to do first and get it out of the way. And if I would just sit down in the morning and do the things that I don't want to do first, then I wouldn't dread it all day long.
Okay, Kristen, so I'm just going to be completely honest with you. And that is, I have thought about that quote a lot from Tessa. And I have realized that I don't even go into the day knowing what I want to get out of that day.
Totally hear you. Totally hear you.
So I've been really trying to create from that. I do have this huge list of things that I have to do all the time. I live by my list. But as far as like waking up with a day and going, okay, what are the 3 things I need to get done so I will feel good about this day?
Right.
I don't do that.
I don't either. And I loved that she said that. And I thought it was such a great thing to think about and to act on.
I also loved her tip about, putting on the costume to do the thing that you dread. So maybe on the days that we have to do our accounting stuff, we can wear like a business suit or
yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah. I don't know. Just a thought.
Dress the part. Definitely.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to talk with you about something because at Chopped Conference, you gave such a great talk. It was so thought-provoking, and everybody was talking about it afterwards.
Thank you. I
was wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing the story that led up to that epiphany that you had last year.
Absolutely. So this past, I guess it was fall, I was on a plane ride to a brand trip in Boulder, Colorado. And gosh, it's been a while, so my memory is kind of off. But the ironic thing is, I was on a plane and I had my planner out, and I was, for once and for all, I'm determined to get organized with blogging, and I was making a whole little like daily checklist of things I needed to do every day on my blog, including the stuff I hate to do. And we started to head, or what's it called when you start to land, I guess. And our plane all of a sudden just dropped. I'm like, this huge drop. And then it went straight, like nose back up in the air, and then dropped again and went back up in the air. And it just kept like going like that. And everybody's screaming. People are crying. My planner had like fallen across and gone across the aisle. And the pilot gets on and says, we are in now I can't think of what it's called.
Free fall?
No, like a storm. I mean,
wind shear?
Yeah, wind shear or something. It's right over the Denver airport, and we are stuck in it. We can't get out of it because every time we try to go up, we're forced back down. Every time we go down, we're forced back up. It's so turbulent. Oh, and so he's like, I'm gonna try to get out of it, and we're gonna try to land again. And so he goes back up, finally get out of it, and tries to land again. And the same thing happens. And I'm sitting next to this sweet little old lady, and we're both like, I think we're gonna die. And,
I would be.
Yeah, and I had tears in my eyes, and at that point, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, here I am. Seriously wondering if we're gonna make it through this flight, and doing my blog stuff. And I'm like, really, Kristen, in the end, is this how you want your life to be? Do you want to be so focused on your work and your blog and the things that don't matter as much? Or do you want to be focused on your children and your life and, living as happily as you can? And so we ended up making it. They diverted us to the airport, not Denver airport, but another airport, Colorado Springs, which happened to be closed. And because for the day, I guess. And so we sat on the plane forever. They gave us free cocktails and drinks. And
I would probably want a couple of them at that point.
Yeah. Well, the pilot and the flight attendant said that was the worst turbulence they'd ever had ever been in, and things like that. So basically, it kind of gave me that clarity that I don't think everybody gets, unless they've experienced something like that. But that clarity of focusing on what's important and not stressing about the daily checklist of things that my blog needs when my kids probably need more from me. You know what I mean? So,
yes.
And I'm at a critical state. My youngest daughter starts kindergarten this next year. And so I've been a stay-at-home mom or work-at-home mom for 13 years now. And I look back at that and I'm like, what are they going to remember from those years? And I really don't want it to be me sitting behind my computer, with them playing off on the side. So
That's really good. And you're right. It does seems like it takes moments like that to help clarify what's important.
Yeah, it totally does. It totally does.
And I don't know if I've told you this before, but I after my daughter was born, I developed a fear of flying. It was the weirdest thing, and it really took a lot of work to overcome it. So hearing you say that story, I was there with you on that flight. Yes. I felt like,
yeah, it was scary, and I really don't want to fly into Denver ever again. I'd be happy if I never had to do that. So
yeah, I had a little bit of turbulence flying into Denver once as well, and I think I have the same feeling. And my experience wasn't as bad as yours.
Yeah. I heard it's a pretty bad airport for that. So.
I think so too. Yeah, and I think it was interesting too that you told about the lady sitting next to you that she shared some food with you.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So we were on the second time down. She was like, I have some cheese in my purse. She's like, would you like some cheese? I think now's a great time for some cheese. And she gets out these little, cheese packets and starts, handing them to me. And so we enjoy what we thought was going to be our last meal, cheese and crackers. And I think I had a couple Starbursts that we shared as well.
I just think it's kind of cool that, even in the air and in a bad situation, food is something that can be so uniting. And
yes.
That's something I love about that.
Me too.
And so you have this. Now, did the happiness project that you share on your blog, was that happening before that, or?
Yes, I've been sharing. Well, it's my happiness reports.
Happiness reports. Thank you.
Yeah, I've been sharing those for years. I read Gretchen Rubin's Happiness Project when it first came out several years ago, and was inspired by that, and just started. I just think we need more happy in the world. And there's, so many times when you go onto the internet, especially, you can find plenty of things where people are griping about things or making fun of things or, not positive in nature. And I just decided that selfishly for me, when I focus on happy things, I'm happier. And so the happiness reports came from that. And then I delved into a project that I called 52 Happiness Street, yes, which has been put on hold at the moment until my daughter goes back until she starts school full time. But basically, the premise of 52 Happiness Street is to do something every week that makes you happy. And I would like to say do something every day, but to make a list of 52 things that make you happy. And they can be as little as listening to your favorite podcast or taking pictures of flowers or coloring, things like that. And making sure that you implement those little things into your week. And, especially and I'm sure dads feel the same way, but, my husband, he's happy, but I don't think he cares as much as about focusing on making sure that what he's doing is happy. Yeah. I think women, we have a tendency to want those happy things and to need those happy things to help us stay happy. And so, but we're the ones who tend to ignore those things to do for others. And so I just think it's important that we take time out of each week or each day to do something small that makes us happy.
So I think what I've heard you saying is that it's easy, especially I think as women, I agree that we have a tendency to want to focus on how do we make everybody around us happy, and we forget about the things that make us happy.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. Fresh flowers make me happy. If I run to Trader Joe's and put a vase of fresh flowers on my desk, every time I see those flowers, it makes me happy. It's just something simple. When I'm happy, I tend to be a nicer mom. I tend to be a nicer wife. I tend to be a better friend. And I tend to write in a way that's more positive. Mm-hmm. I just think, I just think we are the foundation for making sure that we are happy. Nobody else is going to do it for us.
That's great. And in fact, I was reading your latest happiness report. And I love that you had the links to the lettering, how to write in very cool lettering. It's on my wish list at Amazon now. That book is. I love it.
There's that's something I just recently started this year in 2015 is journaling. There's some great journaling prompts at lifecapturedinc.com. And I've been doing daily journaling and, based on her prompts. And with that, I've been trying to do some lettering and I'm not very good at it yet, but it's fun. It's fun to get creative that way and to do something on, put the pen to paper and do something a little bit different.
Well, yeah, and you left the link to those really cool pins too, and it made me think, if I could walk into Office Max and say, I'll just take one of everything, that would make me so happy.
See, office supplies would make my happy list, definitely. I love office supply shopping.
And I also like the fact that I'm an adult, and the idea of carrying around a bag with colored pens for me makes me happy.
Exactly. I have something I call the happy bag, which is my morning bag that I have with me. And it has my journal in it. It has a sketchbook in it. It has pens. It has, I'll be honest with you, it has some magazine cutouts of Adam Levine. It has recipes that I want to try. It just has, different things in it that make me happy. And I try to sit down with my coffee, in the morning, and I call it my happy hour, and spend some time just doing something that will start my day off on a happy note.
I love that. Happy hour in the morning is about just starting out your day feeling happy. That's great. Exactly. I also heard somebody say recently that before you even get out of bed, to recite 5 things that, I think it was Janine Roth, that make you happy.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. That's it could be just that, or maybe it's that grateful thing, but in the morning, I'm grateful that I'm alive, or I'm grateful that, I'm here with my husband, or it could be, it doesn't have to be anything profound, but.
There was a story, and I'm not going to tell it completely right, but Matthew McConaughey, I think at one of his maybe award speeches or something, he talked about his mom and how, if one of the kids came down in a crabby mood, she would say, you need to turn right around and go back upstairs and think about things that make you happy and think about things that make you grateful. And then when you come back downstairs, your attitude will be turned around, and,
wow.
And I believe that. I believe that, we can all wake up and be crabby about, what's going on. Everybody has something they can be crabby about,
right.
But we all have more things that we can be happy about. We just need to focus on those.
Exactly. You have, one thing I've really noticed about you, Kristen, is that you have been a big proponent of helping others in the food blogging community. I know you had a blog mentoring program for a while, and you've reached out, and I think you bring bloggers along in so many ways. I'm pretty sure that I would still not know how to use filters on my iPhone if it wasn't for you.
So
I just think I wonder if that's a source of happiness for you as well, like this of finding a way to help other people.
It is. When I first started blogging, like I said, there weren't that many people blogging. There was just a handful of us, and we had a really small, tight-knit community. And so I started a blog mentoring program then called Adopt a Blogger, where I would match new bloggers with mentors who had been blogging for a couple years. And it was a fantastic program just because it gave bloggers that one-on-one time with somebody who knew what they were doing. And I got the chance to mentor several people, and their blogs are doing way better than mine ever will at this point, which I'm not saying that I had a part in that, but it's fun to see, to see them grow and to be able to help someone kind of navigate those early waters. As the blogging, especially food blogging community grew, it was harder to keep that momentum going, just because a new blogger now can get up to speed in 6 months. It doesn't seem to take as long as it used to be a blogger who knows what they're doing.
There's a lot of online resources now. I wonder if maybe that's why.
Yeah. There's Facebook groups. There's people who do consulting. There are all kinds of ways for people to get that information.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Instagram, because I love your shot of coffee hashtag story.
Thanks.
And
Thank you.
I just think it shows how being creative and putting yourself out there can really make a difference.
Yeah. So Instagram is my favorite social media by far. I love the community. I love seeing the creativity of other people. And oh gosh, I joined Instagram when I was on a brand trip one time, and someone was like, oh, you really need to try Instagram. And I'm like, oh, this is, how long will this last? This is kind of stupid. And here I am loving Instagram. So Amy She Wears Many Hats, and I had decided one time that we were going to start a shot of coffee hashtag. And basically it was just taking pictures of coffee and putting the hashtag on it. I am a little bit more obsessed with coffee than Amy. Amy is. She didn't do it for very long, but from that, I started getting calls from brands or emails from brands who wanted to work with me because of my love of coffee. And then I also partnered at a conference with Tracy Clark from Shutter Sisters. And we partnered with Shot at Life, which is an organization that gives vaccines to kids in underdeveloped countries. And so they did the Shot of Coffee, and Shot at Life was their hashtag, and they combined the two during a conference for some recognition to their cause. And it's funny. I see the hashtag all over the place now in the mornings, and it just makes me happy to see that people are embracing it. And
because that's one of those hashtags that's really taken off, isn't it? I mean, it seems like
it is. Yeah. I mean, it's nobody would know at this point that I was the one who did it, because there are people who take way more pictures of coffee than I do even. So, yeah.
I think my daughter might be one of them. She loves coffee.
Oh, I love taking pictures of coffee. Love.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And now you should do a shot of journal now too, because I love your journal.
Shot of journal, yes. Daily journals, yes.
Yeah. Your journal, posts are pretty cool too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So do you have a tip for somebody who is just starting out on Instagram? Like what would be some things that they could do to help, I don't know, either. I always worry about what the metrics are. Is it, really would be worried about the number of followers, or should be thinking about, how to make the most difference in our readers' lives, that kind of thing?
You know what? Instagram is one of those places where I don't focus on any of that at all. It's my happy place. I don't have a huge Instagram following at all. And, my pictures, I just post what I want. And I know some people are very, very tactical about what they post on Instagram. They want it to be brand, representative of their blog. And to me, it's my place to share my life. And that's what I like to see in Instagram users. I like the behind the scenes, and to get to know them a little bit better that way. As far as if you want to grow your Instagram, I think, and obviously I'm not an expert, but hashtags, a relevant hashtag, not 15 hashtags, but 1 or 2 relevant hashtags. I always click on the Shot of Coffee hashtag and see who's doing that. I started a project this year called Imperfect 365. I always click on that hashtag and see who else is doing that.
What is that again? Imperfect 365?
It's Imperfect 365. And basically I've done a Project 365 project, I guess, for the past few years. And it's taking a photo every day for the entire 365 days. And what I found was that me being an all or nothing kind of person, if I got to February and realized that I forgot to take a picture February 1st, then I'm like, crap, well, I've totally ruined the next 365 days, so I better quit.
Right.
And so the premise behind Imperfect 365 is if you forget a day, who cares? The whole point is, for example, 300 pictures during the year of what's going on is way better than 0. And so it's just kind of a looser Project 365.
That's nice. I like to be involved in things like that don't have such strict criteria about them.
Yeah. You know what? And Project 365 is the same way. I mean, nobody's going to come like hunt me down if I didn't, if I continue doing the project and only have 360 pictures. But it's that whole mental kind of thing where I all or nothing, so.
Now, I'm curious, do you do projects like that to, like there's this theory that the more you're in front of the camera, the better photographer you become, or is that really more about documenting things in your life?
It's kind of both. Like, I'll be honest, in the wintertime, I need that reason to get my camera out because otherwise there's nothing for me to take pictures of because I hate going outside in the winter. Sometimes I'll take a picture of my glass of water that I had that day, or, there's a lot of pictures of my kids in the wintertime, or my dog. But I do it because I did have one rule for myself, and I've already broken it with Imperfect 365, was to use my DSLR more for the pictures. And because I don't think it could hurt to take more pictures with, sorry,
Yeah.
to take more pictures that way. And it obviously is going to help increase my skills if I take more lifestyle pictures with that camera.
I agree. It's so easy, like just to go out with your iPhone or whatever and not take the DSLR out.
Yeah, yeah. So that's my reasoning behind it, was that I wanted to document life. I wanted to take more than just food pictures with my big girl camera. And yeah.
Now, for a while, you and I had the same camera, the Nikon D300. Is that what you still use?
Yeah, I have this, what do I have? The 610?
610?
Now? Yeah.
Nice.
I think. I'm looking, yeah. Oh, yeah, 610.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, there's something about using the more, well, I think that's just common knowledge that the more you use something, the better you can get at it. But there's still so many settings in my DSLR that I'm not familiar with.
I know. And the reason I got the 610 was because my 300, I didn't have the 300S and I wanted video. And so I got the 610 and for video, and I haven't used the video once, and I've had it for at least 6 months.
Video has been a goal to add more video to my site, but it's very time consuming. Video is.
Yeah, you know what? And I appreciate that goal, and I would like to. I'm sorry, goodness. I would like to do more video, but I don't watch videos on blogs. You know what I mean? So I keep thinking it's not when I go to a blog. I go to, especially a blog like this, to go to read the recipes, read the story. Look at the pictures, and I don't tend to be in a place where I can listen to or play a video or necessarily have the time to click play and watch a video. It's very rare. So I'm sure that there probably are a lot of people who do watch the videos. I just don't know that it would be worth the time invested to incorporate that to my blog.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That I don't often, even when there is a video, I don't often click on that, and it has to be something I'm either I don't know, like maybe they're posting a recipe that I've never made before, and I think, ooh, I'm curious how that process works, or But I guess that there's different kinds of readers out there. I don't know. I don't know why I have this goal of wanting to have video on the site, but it is a goal.
Well, no, I think it's a great goal, and it's definitely something to shoot for.
Well, I guess maybe because there's some people who I know that are not big readers, and so I put a lot of emphasis on the writing on the posts, and I wonder if maybe video would be another way of, I don't know, like helping people get to know you better.
Right, absolutely, and I do love those videos. Like all the people have those intro to my blog type videos now, and I love those little sneak peeks of who the blogger is. I think those are really cool.
Yeah, I agree. But I think what I'm hearing you say, at least this is what I'm kind of reading between the lines, is like blogging can be overwhelming. There's so many things that are part of it, and it sounds to me like what I'm hearing you say is that you've picked the things that make you happiest or get you the biggest return on the effort that you put into it, or the whatever it is you're looking for, and that's what you focus on.
I think over the years I used to be a blogger that would compare myself a lot to others, or think because I wasn't doing something, I'd never have done step-by-step photos. The thought of doing step-by-step photos just makes me want to vomit, honestly, because I would skip a step whenever I had to do ingredients. I'd always forget to add an ingredient, and it just never worked for me. And
the lighting. I mean, you got to.
Yes. I admire the people who do it and do it so well, because the variables change every single time. And I used to feel guilty about all the things I wasn't doing. I'm like, oh, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I don't know Pinterest enough. I don't, go on Google Plus. And then I'm like, you know what? People come to my blog and have for a long time for a specific reason. It's not because I do everything perfectly. It's not because I do step-by-step photos. They know what to expect from me, and I need to be okay with that. Not every blogger is going to be able to do everything. And so my attitude now is to just focus on what, like you said, what makes me happy, what brings value to my readers. I used to get really nervous about posting non-food posts on my site. And then I discovered that once I started doing that, those actually got more comments, more interaction, more engagement than my recipe posts. And so, and it's what it's the kind of writing I really enjoy doing. And so I was shying away from that, thinking, oh gosh, what is everybody going to think? And then now I'm like, well, that was ridiculous that I hid that part of me for so long when my readers have been extremely accepting of it. I've taken breaks in blogging, big breaks. And that used to worry me that I didn't have I'd be on vacation and I'm like, oh, I'm one of those bloggers who doesn't have my post scheduled out for the next 6 months,
Yeah.
and that used to worry me. And then I realized that my readers, whether I'm gone for a week, whether I'm gone for a month, whether I post every day, they're there, no matter what. And so I stopped worrying about things like that and realized that I'm blogging for myself and for my readers. I'm not blogging for other bloggers. I'm not blogging for, I'm not blogging because I want to do what everybody else is doing. I want to do what I want to do. That's the joy of owning your own business.
Right.
Is, you're in control.
Yeah.
And, you make it what makes you happy, not what is going to make everybody else happy.
It sounds like you've come to this place of peace where you realize that, this is my business and this is what I'm going to do with it.
It is. And I still have, honestly, I was just having this conversation with somebody yesterday who I respect immensely about Google+. And I was like, I have not been on Google+ in probably 6 months. And I said, I know I'm probably killing my blog. And she's like, oh my gosh, she's like, it's such a ghost town over there. She's like, I haven't been on Google+ in, X amount of time. I'm like, okay, well, that makes me feel better.
But you rock on Google+, though. I mean, you've got a lot of followers.
Gosh. I haven't, but I don't do anything over there. So that's what makes, I'm like, I have this whole mentality that I'm missing out on a huge opportunity, but I just can't fit it all in. And so Google+ is something that's not a priority for me right now.
So the focus is more like Instagram and the things, because those are the things that, like your friend was saying, if it's a ghost town on Google+, you don't get as much enjoyment of spending time there.
I feel like Google+ is bloggers feeding other bloggers. And as much as I love other bloggers, they're not my audience, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I don't honestly think I know of anybody who I'm connected with and engage with on Google+ that's not another blogger.
Interesting point. I have to think about that too. I think you might be right.
Yeah, which is great to support each other and that kind of thing. I mean, I totally think that's wonderful, but it's not where I'm going to reach the people that are as engaged with Dine and Dish.
Yeah.
As I would hope.
Well, I just think it's interesting just listening to you talk, I've just been thinking about it, that maybe it's easy to think that this focus on happiness can be kind of silly and frivolous. But what I'm realizing is that you mentioned that when you're happier, you're better to your friends and you're better mother and better spouse. And then I was thinking, I wonder if that means that you're also better to yourself. Like, this internal dialogue that's inside all of us that can be so negative and harsh and critical. And maybe when you're happier, that gets better too, because that's maybe where you found this place of peace where you're like, I know what makes me happy now. This is what I'm going to do.
Right. Well, I think I have an advantage that I've been blogging so long, and I started blogging before blogging was a business.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So my mentality is a lot different than somebody who would start specifically, let's say 3 years ago, started as this is going to be my business. I'm going to quit my full-time job. I'm going to, focus on this solely. They have to, people who do that have to have a different attitude about blogging. I started blogging as a hobby, and by sheer being at the right place at the right time, maybe, I was able to get clients and turn it into a business. But I've never focused on blogging as my business. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense.
You didn't focus on that as an outcome.
As an outcome, yes. It was never my goal to start a blog as a way to make an income for my family, because back then that wasn't possible. Nobody did that. And I I don't know how to say this without, I just think I had the luxury that I've been around a long time. I also have the luxury that because of being around a long time, I've seen what's done well for people and what hasn't.
Right.
I've seen people be the kind of blogger I would love to be, and I've also seen the opposite of people be the type of blogger I do not want to be.
Right.
And so I've had a whole landscape of years that I can just look across and choose and pick what works for me.
Yeah.
Without feeling like I'm going to let my family down because I'm not bringing in enough income or, that kind of thing. So.
I think sometimes that's the best way to go about it, because if you put that pressure of money into the mix, I think it could have the tendency to having you make decisions that you wouldn't necessarily make otherwise.
Right. I've never had the biggest blog on the internet, and I never will, and I'm totally fine with that. But I've made a very decent living doing what I love, staying true to how I want to blog, and not caring as much what everybody else is doing. It's worked for me, and somebody that I admire a lot is Bridget with Bake It 350.
I love her. Oh gosh.
And I learned something from her years ago. She's on Blogger, the Blogger platform, and she's also, I think, a .net. Maybe
I think you're right.
I think she's a .net.
You're
which I'm a
.net.
.net.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm a .net, and a few years ago, everybody's like, "Oh, if you're going to be a big blogger, you've got to get off Blogger." And you've got to change to .com, and you've got to do this, and you've got to do that. And she's like, you know what? She's like, Blogger? She's like, may not be for everybody. She's like, but it's worked for me. And obviously, Bridget has a ton of success.
Yeah.
I mean, she's extremely successful, and I just really admire her a lot. But she doesn't do what everybody else does. She does her own thing, and doesn't care that what she's doing is different. And
it's worked for her. Yeah.
And has proven that it can work. You don't need to go with the flow all the time. You can go against the tide and still have success.
I love it. So. That's really good. So at the end of the interview, I'd like to ask a series of fun, kind of quick questions.
Okay.
So, what is the one food item you could not live without?
Bread.
Oh yeah, you said that earlier. You really like bread. Yeah.
Wow.
Any kind of bread, or just?
Oh, I love homemade bread. I love pretzels. I love pizza crust. I mean, I love any kind of gluten. If I ever have to go gluten-free, I'm going to be really not good.
Not happy. There are some gluten-free breads, but they're not quite the same.
There are, and I'm sure I would love those just as much.
Do you like making them yourself, or are there some store-bought breads that you like, or?
I'm not picky. I mean, I'm not a big sandwich loaf. I don't go snack on. Well, when I was little, my mom used to buy bags of Wonder Bread, and I would take 5 pieces and tear off the crust, and then smash it and roll it all into a ball and just eat that as a snack. So,
oh my!
I've always.
That's just so funny, because I used to do the same thing. I would roll them into a ball, but I would roll them in sugar.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Ooh,
small town. That's what I had for entertainment.
Yes, exactly. Bread ball, sugar bread ball.
Not even with cinnamon, just sugar.
That's so funny. I'm going to have to try that.
Yeah. Okay, so what's your favorite app on your phone?
Instagram, but I also love the Time Hop app.
I got that based on your recommendation.
Yeah, I love that app. It tells you what you've posted on social media, for years back. And so every day I'll get a thing that says, this is what happened 4 years ago. And it shows you pictures of, what you Instagrammed or what you Facebooked. This is what happened 3 years ago and today. And so it's a really neat way to look back, on time at a quick glance.
Oh, that is great. Okay, so do you have any time for TV at all? And if so, what's your favorite show?
That's so funny. I go to the gym super early in the morning.
Yeah.
I wake up at 4:15, and there's 2 other friends that we go with 3 times a week. And we were just talking this morning about how I always say I don't watch that much TV. And then I'm like, but I do. I'm a huge TV addict. But it's more, I'm a huge binge watching Netflix addict.
Mm-hmm.
So my favorite shows are Scandal until this season. This season is kind of losing me. I just started House of Cards with my husband, and we're at the beginning of season 2. And oh my gosh, it's so intense. The Voice, I like, obviously.
I guess for the hosts.
For the hosts. Well, and because I got to go backstage this past summer, and it's so cool to know what really happens behind the scenes, and then to see how it plays out on TV.
Can you tell quickly, I know that this is kind of the end of the interview, but tell quickly about the story of how you got to go on The Voice.
Oh, gosh. Well, my friend Amanda with Kevin and Amanda knows that I love Adam Levine, and had sent me a text and said I just got an opportunity to go to LA, to visit a friend / client. It wasn't a work-related trip, but she's like, and he can get us backstage tickets to The Voice as well as tickets to Jimmy Kimmel Live. Oh, and she's like, you're the first person I thought of. And so we ended up going, and the client's friend works as a sound engineer, as the main sound engineer for The Voice. And so we got to go spend some time with him and watch how they produce all of that. And then got to tour The Voice studio while they were doing the live auditions. And then afterwards we were leaving, and we got to see Adam and Blake and Pharrell and Gwen from afar. I mean, it was close enough for me. I was super happy that, we even got to see them. Yeah. And I thought, that was going to be the end of it. And it was about 11 o'clock at night, and we were leaving the studios, and we were in this really dark alley, basically, behind the studios, because the sound engineer trailer was behind the studios. And so we walk out, and my friend Amanda was like, she's like, look at that, black Escalade. And I'm like, yeah, she's like, that's got to be someone's Escalade. She's like, we're staying here. And I'm like, this is Hollywood. It could be anybody. She's like, but look at the bodyguard. And there was this huge bodyguard, who standing there. And so she's like, we're going to wait. And I'm like, okay, fine. And I had my back turned towards the bodyguard, and we were chatting. And 2 minutes later, she's like, Kristen, you are not going to believe who just walked out the door. And I'm like, who? And she's like, Adam Levine is standing right behind you.
Oh my gosh.
And I turn around, and sure enough, he's about 20 feet away from me. And my first reaction was to turn the other way and start, because I was nervous. I'm like, I don't know what to do, And she's like, you're going to go introduce yourself. So anyway, I turned around. The bodyguard got in between us. And he was like, you're not. He's like, no. And then Adam was like, no, it's okay. Come on over. And so, we shook hands and talked for a while. And
wow.
And I said really stupid things. I'm I wish I could go back and redo my conversation, because I was like a teenager. But
I love this show, or I love your show, and love your music.
Oh no! I said, you know what I said, Marla? I said I tweet you all the time. I said I tweet you all the time, and you never tweet me back. And he was like, I kind of have 6 million followers or 60 million followers. I don't know, but he was super nice and gorgeous, of course. It was fun. It was definitely a weekend that I'll never forget.
See, I love that story, because to me it changes the whole metrics of success of blogging, because that's it's a totally unexpected outcome, and it's so cool.
Well, and I got to meet Scott Foley and Gwyneth Paltrow and Josh Malina, and then Amanda and I were on Jimmy Kimmel's selfie, where he did a live selfie of the audience in the front row. And so it was just, one of those things that would have never happened had it not been for Amanda, first of all, and then for blogging. It was one of those dream come true kind of things.
Oh, that's cool. So that's a great story to end it on. And so how can people find you online?
I'm pretty much just Dine and Dish everywhere. Dineanddish.net is my blog. Mm-hmm. And then Instagram, Twitter, Facebook is just Dine and Dish.
Wonderful. Kristen, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Thanks to Kristen Doyle for being my guest on today's episode of the Chopped Podcast. If you have something to share about this episode, maybe ways that you've discovered to find happiness as a food blogger, please share it on the show notes page at choppedcon.com/podcast. If you like the Chopped podcast, I'd love it if you'd subscribe and give it a review on iTunes. This helps the show get discovered by more people. I hope today's show is helpful and inspirational. Thanks so much for listening and have a great week.